Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. Oh baby, what a basho that was. We went into the tournament looking at nephew and grandson as Yokozuna hopefuls. After a first week where that all looked like it got blown away with the breeze, a different grandson ended up giving the nephew an opportunity to secure the title, and, from the news I'm seeing, a probable promotion to Yokozuna. There's a little something to talk about there, but let's set up the Banzuke so we can start placing everyone first. Okay, at the top, we've got Hoshoryu at Yokozuna. It's not 100% locked in until the Yokozuna Council says it is, but we should know that in the next few days. The question is, how did this happen when the run looked dead after his loss to Hiro to Umi on day 9? The first thing to discuss is why a lot of us assumed the run was dead at that point. Back in '86, a Rikishi named Futa Haguro was promoted to Yokozuna. He'd won 26 matches in 2 bashos, but didn't win a title either time. Not only that, he hadn't won a top division title at any point in his career, and he hadn't even been an Ozeki for that long. It was viewed as a questionable decision back then, and it looked far worse when he crashed and burned as a Yokozuna. He never won a Yusho and was gone in a year and a half. Since his retirement, every single wrestler who made Yokozuna had a minimum of 26 wins and 1 title in the 2 bashos before their ascension. Once Hoshoryu lost his 3rd match, the most he could earn was 25. What a lot of us figured was that a 12-3 Yusho wouldn't get him the rope, but it would give him 2 strong bashos to lean on in going for the title again in March. But, as John Gunning pointed out in the Japan Times, the lack of a Yokozuna changes the math. The sport wants there to be a Yokozuna. If Terunofuji had been healthy enough to see things through to the end, even with the same Yusho outcome, there's a much better chance Hoshoryu would have been made to wait. That might seem illogical since Teru would still be at least close to retirement, and maybe Teru's permanently questionable status would have been enough to prompt the promotion anyway. But with 0 Yokozuna on the board, bumping someone up who's made a pretty good argument for the crown makes a lot more sense. And in fairness to Hoshoryu, he looked tremendous this basho. It's not great that his 3 losses were to guys who finished with losing records, and it certainly didn't hurt that he only faced 4 Sanyaku level wrestlers, one of whom was barely a shadow of his regular self. But he got it done, and he was largely dominant in his victories. Given the circumstances, the promotion does make sense. After Hoshoryu, we've got Onosato moving to Ozeki 1 East because he had the better record of the remaining Ozeki, and Kotozakura's 5-10 moves him down to Ozeki 1 West. Also remember, if you're new, that means Kotozakura is Kadoban. Kadoban means the Ozeki needs to get a winning record in the next tournament or he's gonna be demoted. This is something that was kind of unthinkable for Koto. In fact, I made a prediction, which has already fallen apart, that none of the Ozeki would go Kadoban during this entire calendar year because I thought, in part, their health was good enough to avoid situations like this. Obviously, something's wrong with Koto. I haven't seen any reports as to what, but hopefully he recovers in time because it would be very disappointing to see him go from the Yokozuna favorite to dropping to Sekiwake in like 4 months. After that, we've got Daisho. He was 11-4, excellent tournament. With Wakamoto Haru falling off, he's going to get bumped over to Sekiwake 1 East. Everyone else in the Sanyaku fell to pieces. That means we're going to have new guys coming up from the Maegashira ranks. Kirishima is the obvious first choice, 11-4 at Maegashira 1. His body cooperated and he kicked ass. So he'll go to Sekiwake 1 West. There was some discussion as to whether Oho would be able to leapfrog him, but with Kirishima winning on the last day, having 1 fewer win, but being 2 ranks ahead, that's like roughly a tie with Oho, so they're just gonna put Kiri up to Sekiwake, and Oho should just end up at Komusubi 1 East. Now the big question is, who goes to Komusubi 1 West? Abi and Wakatakakage both went 7-8, so they should, quotes, be demoted. However, in this case, the best options available are Gonoyama and Chiyoshoma, and they, even mathematically, are below both of those Komusubi. So presumably what's going to happen is, because 7 and 8 you can just get dropped to half rank, Abi should most likely just drop from Komusubi East to Komusubi West, but stay in the Sanyaku, while Wakataka Kage goes from Komusubi 1 West over to Maegashira 1 East. This is going to be the easiest and most sensible way of dealing with it. I would be very surprised if they handled it any other way. Similarly, none of the guys remaining from Maegashira could even catch up to Wakamoto Haru mathematically. I mean, Gonoyama caught him, but he didn't bypass him, so Wakamoto Haru will almost certainly go to Maegashira 1 West. Because Tobizaru went 7 and 8 at 2 East, dropping him to 3 East gives him his 1 rank demotion. That works perfectly fine, and means that we really don't have to do anything with Gonoyama or Chiyoshoma, who should end up at Maegashira 2 East and West respectively. And from there we can start sliding everybody else up. Takano Sho, 6 and 9 at Maegashira 1 East. Well, there's an empty slot at 3 West. He can drop in there, down 2.5 ranks on 6 and 9, that's fine. Ura cannot go higher than Maegashira 4 West because he had a losing record, so that means Takayasu can slot in nicely at 4 East. By the way, if this is correct, and it most likely is, Ura landing at Maegashira 4 West means he's going to be at that exact rank, not just Maegashira 4, Maegashira 4 West, for the 6th time since July 2023. That's wild. I haven't looked up whether anyone else has done something like that. I'm not sure how to look that up because it's kind of a complicated question for search engines, but man, I doubt anyone else has done anything like that. That's crazy. Ichi Yamamoto and Kinbozan, they're tied at Maegashira 5 West. Ichi Yamamoto, having been the much higher ranked guy, will probably slide over to Maegashira 5 East, but that's not a given. Kinbozan, see, this is where it gets a little complicated. When guys have a tougher schedule, they're often given some priority in the rankings. However, Kinbozan was way lower ranked. Ichi Yamamoto at 6 would be assumed to have a much harder schedule than Kinbozan at 14. The fact Kinbozan managed to earn himself several Sanyaku matches shouldn't play that much into it, especially because Ichi Yamamoto also had 3 Sanyaku matches. So they could move Kinbozan to 5 East. I, at the moment, don't think they will. I think it's going to look like this, but you should probably expect Ichi and Kinbozan to be at 5 in one order or the other. Hirodoumi, 7 and 8 at Maegashira 5 East, drops to 6 East, that's fine. Takeru Fuji gets his exact promotion, plus 5 on 10 and 5. Shodai and Tamawashi tied at Maegashira 7 East. Shodai's schedule will probably give him the advantage here. He had to fight the entire Sanyaku, whereas Tamawashi, the highest rank he fought was Kirishima. If they were both lower ranked and nobody had a Sanyaku matchup, I'm pretty sure Tamawashi would end up ahead. In this case, it feels fairly safe to say Shodai is going to end up ahead. Now, it's possible Shodai gets bumped ahead of Takeru Fuji, but I don't think he will, just because they've been looking... Some of their decisions have suggested that they're looking at the guy rather than just the rank. And if that's the case, Takeru Fuji is, hot prospect. He's going to get a little bit of a bump. And this isn't even a bump. This is just his normal promotion for 10 and 5. So Shodai to 7 East seems probable. Don't be shocked if he gets bumped up a little bit. Well, now it's Atami Fuji and Tamawashi. Well, Tamawashi is technically ahead of Atami Fuji mathematically, but again, Atami Fuji had a really tough schedule. Why he did so badly is another story, but it doesn't really matter for these purposes. I am going to guess that Atami stays ahead of Tamawashi, but this is much more sketchy than Shodai staying ahead of Tamawashi. It is much more likely that I'm wrong here. Tamawashi could very easily be at 7 West and Atami gets over-demoted to 8 East, but the fact Atami Fuji was in the Joy should make that less likely. Not impossible, just less likely. Regardless of what happens there, Oshoma going up 1 to 8 West fits in nicely, and now we have some gaps to fill. Here we can just start moving guys up. We ignore Shishi because he's coming up from Juryo, so he's going to end up lower than the math is currently putting him. So Endo just goes down 2 ranks on 6 and 9, fine. Hakuoho gets a little bit of a bump with his 10 and 5, fine. Nishikigi goes up 2 with his 8 and 7. That's okay. We'll pull Shishi down for the moment, and Shonen no Umi and Midori Fuji. Well, Midori Fuji cannot go above Maegashira 11 East because he had a losing record, so more likely he'll stay in place with his 7 and 8, and that leaves Shonen no Umi free to go to Maegashira 10 West. Now we have to start finding room for the Juryo guys. Now, it's not impossible that they put Shishi at 11 West and Ryuden at 12 East, and then just start pushing everybody else in place behind them. Something like that. However, if we push the Juryo guys back, what does that end up looking like? Well, Onokatsu can't go above Maegashira 12 West. If Meisei was at 11 West, that would be just 1 rank down on 6 and 9, which is, that's not much. So let's move him to 12 East for the moment, and then move Takara Fuji to 11 West. 3 ranks on 5 and 10 is a little small, but not too bad. And then that would put Shishi over at 13 East, Ryuden at 13 West, and then we start sliding guys down further. Maybe Aonishiki goes behind Nishiki Fuji, who's to say? But does this make sense? Yes, it makes some sense. The only thing about it that might be questionable is they have been trying to drop guys with 7 and 8 records if it makes sense to do so. So the question is, does it make sense to do so when they would be dropping those guys in order to move Juryo guys up further? Hard to say. I am not sure about that. But I think we're going to have a pretty big swing here. Or, this could be one of those negotiation things. This could make sense with all 3 Maegashira guys ahead of Shishi and Ryuden, or we could end up with Shishi and Ryuden ahead of all 3 of the other guys, and then they decide to compromise, and they put like Takara Fuji, and then Meisei, and then Shishi, and then Ryuden, and then Onokatsu, which makes no sense at all, but hey, that's how this could turn out. It is worth noting, however, that the last time anybody from Juryo was promoted to Maegashira 12 or higher was 2022, in which case it was Ryuden, oddly enough, but before that, the last one was 2019. So for the moment, I'm disinclined to put anybody from Juryo above Maegashira 13, which sets everybody up in this order pretty nicely. Again, though, Onokatsu could get bumped down. I'm not sure. Something to think about. After that, Nishiki Fuji, he goes up his +3, so Aonishiki should end up behind him at 14 West. Sada no Umi most likely goes to 15 East, and then Chura no Umi, because for the most part they've been making guys eat as much of the demotion as possible, will maybe go to 15 West. That's my current guess, but again, not a shock at all if he ends up at 14 West ahead of Aonishiki and Sada no Umi. I would not expect him to end up between them. That's probably the least likely outcome. Ahead of or behind both of them is very possible. Now, the last guy to earn a spot into Makuuchi, Asakoryu, we can move to 16 East. However, we still have 4 more slots to fill. With only 7 members of the Sanyaku, 1 Yokozuna, 2 Ozeki, 2 Sekiwake, 2 Komusubi, that means with 42 guys in the division, we need to fill 35 more slots. That means we're going to go down all the way to Maegashira 18 East. So who do we put there? Well, Shirokuma seems like an obvious choice. Put him over at 16 West. He could end up behind some of these other guys that'll be saved, but we'll put him here for the moment. The other 3 seem pretty straightforward. Koto Shouho, Mitakeyumi, and Toki Hayate are all tied at Juryo 1 West. They're ahead of everyone else. There's no one else with a winning record from Juryo who has any reasonable shot at making the division, and we have 3 slots to fill. So Mitakeyumi, having been further up, probably goes to 17 East. Koto Shouho to 17 West. Toki Hayate, if he goes to 18 East, then at least he gets demoted on 7 and 8. He just happened to have a new slot open up so that he could stay in the division with his 7 and 8 record, even though he's being demoted. Could this turn out another way? Yeah, sure. I think the most likely alternative to this would be Mitakeyumi to 16 West, Shirokuma 17 West, Koto Shouho to 17 East. You could also flip-flop Koto Shouho and Mitakeyumi if you want. but Shirokuma at 16 West or 17 West is my current assumption. 17 East and 18 East just don't make as much sense given who's in play here. It would be weird to split Mitakeumi and Kota Shoho with Shirokuma, but it would also be pretty surprising to let Toki Hayate get no demotion when, like I said before, they have been trying to get demotions on these 7 and 8 guys if possible. Now let's talk about Juryo. At the top, we can keep it simple. Tamashoho is coming down from Makuuchi. He can go to Juryo 1 East. Kageaki, same thing, Juryo 1 West. Kaio gets a half-rank demotion with his 7 and 8 record. 2 East, and then, oh god, what do we do? Well, Kitanawaka and Roga both got hurt and are coming down from Makuuchi. No good reason why they can't just fill up the next 2 slots. And from there, it looks like you just have Tochi Taikai and Oshoumi get incredibly large over promotions. Well, that's gonna happen anyway, but if we go down just a bit, let's notice Hokuto Fuji is down here, mathematically a Juryo 12 East, but he was injured. Is it possible that they move him way up? In the past, yes. Recently, not so much. That seems a lot less likely. I think he's gonna end up well above 12 East, but I don't think they're going to move him all the way up to like Juryo 3 or 4 just because there's no one else to fill the gap. So Tochi Taikai, wow, 3.5 ranks on 8 and 7. Oshoumi, 5.5 ranks on 9 and 6. Very fortunate. 4 guys tied here at Juryo 7. Because Nabatame is all the way at the bottom, even though he has the best record and records tend to play better, I don't think he ends up at the front of this pack. The Juryo 1 through 3 guys are treated like the Joy up in Makuuchi. They seem to be given a little better treatment in a lot of cases. So Shiden to 4 West, 2.5 ranks on 5 and 10. That's not too bad of a drop. Hidenoumi cannot go above 6 East because he has a losing record, and that was his rank last time. So then Nabatame and Fujiseiyun. Now here is where I think we might have Nabatame get ahead of the other guy. 8 East is not that special of a rank. Nabatame was absolutely crushing it. Move him ahead, put him at 5 East. Fujiseiyun still getting 2.5 ranks on 8 and 7. That's pretty good. This is probably fine. Tomokaze 7 and 8 probably puts him back where he was because Mitoryu, who he was tied with, is still going to get an over promotion on 8 and 7. They could flip-flop them. We could see Mitoryu at 6 West and Tomokaze at 7 East. I think that's slightly less likely, so we're going to put Tomokaze ahead for now. This is where we got to start thinking about where Hokuto Fuji fits. If we move these next 4 guys up, Kotoeho, Hakuyozan, Wakaikari, and Tohakuryu, they're all getting a rank or a rank and a half over promotion. You could put Hokuto Fuji ahead of all of them, and they would end up with a better promotion than the math says they should get. But Hokuto Fuji to 9 West is still a decent under demotion. Honestly, they could fit him into any of these slots. Hokuto Fuji could end up anywhere from 7 West to 9 West. I suspect they're not going to mess with the order of Kotoeho, Hakuyozan, Wakaikari, and Tohakuryu. I expect those 4 to be in this order, but Hokuto Fuji could slide into any spot above, below, or in the middle of that group. Down to Juryo 10, and we are running out of guys to fill these gaps. Kiryuko can only be at Juryo 12 West because he had a losing record. Kazukano, Wakano Sho, everybody else is coming up from Makushita, which tends to put them towards the bottom of the division. So Shimina Umi, the haters are going to have a field day with this one. Shimina Umi could very easily end up at Juryo 10 East. Only dropping 5 ranks on 3 and 12 is the most Shimina Umi thing ever. It is just what he's known for. Whenever he has a terrible tournament, it's when he's not going to get punished for it, or he's going to get minimally punished for it. I don't know how he manages to do this, but this looks like how it's going to turn out. Daisei-zan could go to 10 West. That's only a rank and a half down on 5 and 10. And then Tsurugisho, only 7.5 ranks down on 2 and 13, which would normally be 11 ranks. But what else are you going to do? Everyone else except Hatsuyama, who will probably be saved as well, is coming up from Makushita. If Hatsuyama goes to 11 West, that's actually a half rank up, so that can't happen. So let's put him down here for a second. We really don't have much option except for Wakano Sho to get bumped all the way to 11 West. That's really high for a Makushita promotee. That, like, very fortunate for him. Hitoshi 12 East, Hatsuyama, even at 13 East, he only goes down 1 rank. So that's very fortunate. He might end up lower. They might put more Makushita guys ahead of him. But to fill out the division, we can just put Kusano and Otsuji. That should be enough. Kazakano probably, I don't know why I did that. Kazakano should be ahead of both of them. So that's really how it should look. The order here might get flipped around a little bit depending, like I said, on what they do with Hatsuyama, but these should be the guys who fill out the division. Ishizaki, if he had won the Makushita tournament, he would be promoted, but he finished 6-1, so he's going to have to wait 1 more basho for a shot at a paycheck. As for the guys dropping out, Shimizu Umi has been hurt pretty badly. Hopefully he'll be able to recover and come back. Dayamami and Daishoho, it looks like the end of the road for those guys. If you're fans of them, say your goodbyes, because I don't think we're going to see them in the top ranks again, even if they don't retire, and they very well might. And that is our instant Banzuke following Hatsu 2025. Shoryu looks like he's going to be the new Yokozuna. Congratulations to him, assuming that goes through. He really fought well this tournament. Even though it looked like the numbers might not allow for it, he was really dominant in his wins, and he's finally starting to look like a guy who will be able to hold up the expectations of that rank. And fortunately, if his ankle tweaks again, now he can take a tournament off and it doesn't matter. Hooray! There's a lot of possibilities with how a lot of these guys could be placed, so I'm sure a lot of you have different ideas to what I've got here. Whatever they are, let me know in the comments. We'll be back soon with the tier list recap. Keep an eye out for that. Other than that, have a great day, and I will see you soon.